Hey everybody, Sandman here. This weekend I had the opportunity to attend a Sheepdog response course, a tactical shotgun course that was held in Weatherford, Texas, just outside of Fort Worth. This is a suburb of Fort Worth at the Gravestone Precision Shooting Range. This was on July 25th, 2026. I've never had the opportunity to receive legitimate training on the shotgun. I've qualified on the shotgun before, twice. Once in the police academy in 2011. I didn't pursue law enforcement as a career. When I graduated, I pursued private security instead. And then in 2015, as I was receiving my level 3 and level 4 guard card, I was required to qualify on the shotgun again. I don't remember if it was for level 3 or if it was for the PPO, the Personal Protection Officer certification, but both instances in the police academy and for private security, the qualification standards were very minimal, very low standard, and there was no instruction whatsoever. So I've always wanted to just receive actual legitimate instruction from actual combat veterans and people that just know better than me. And there is no better group of people than the guys and gals from Sheepdog Response. I've always wanted to train with them. I live in South Austin. There's a lot of connection with the they have a facility that they teach out of in Burnett, which is not far from where I live in South Austin, but I think they primarily teach out of Weatherford, since the Sheepdog Response training facility, their main gym is based out of Weatherford, just west of Fort Worth. So always wanted to train with these people. Super glad at the opportunity for this. The main reason why I took this course of fire is because I recently purchased a Beretta 1301 Mod 2 semi-automatic shotgun for home defense. And I realized instead of spending more and more money on accessories that are not necessarily going to make me better, maybe I should spend that money on the training. The amount of money that I spent on this training was far cheaper than any of the accessories that I purchased for the shotgun. I highly recommend that if you have a shotgun or a carbine or a pistol, put money into training, not into the equipment and the accessories. Obviously, we want cool things. We want to feel confident that we're going to be able to handle things when shit hits the fan, or if somebody breaks into our home or tries to hurt a loved one. But only training is really going to get you through that, not the cool accessories on our guns. So I bit the bullet. I think the course was somewhere between like 400 and 450 bucks, but they offered a very good discount for veterans and first responders. It was like a 20% discount at the time. I don't know if that's going to be the same for any of you that are looking at this as an option, but I think like spent like $385 on this course of instruction. It was amazing. The training went from 8 a.m. to about 4 p.m. However, we did get out a couple hours early. We got out sometime around between 1 and 1:30, and that was intentional. We decided to go ahead and push through any possible breaks or any lunch, so that way we can get out of there before it got too hot. We were expecting, as you can see, there's no clouds in the sky. We're expecting over 100-degree heat. And, I'm 42 years old. I was perfectly fine with just pushing through the training and getting out of there as soon as possible. I really felt like I got my money's worth with this course. I can't tell you how much I really enjoyed the course. I enjoyed every second of it, every minute of it. I really appreciate all the instructors, the experience that they bring to the table. But the number one quality that I look for in a teacher or an instructor is not knowledge, and it's not experience. That's 2 and 3. Okay, that's like the second and third most important, quality I look for in an instructor or a teacher. The first most important quality I look for is empathy. I need that instructor or that teacher to have a little bit of empathy for me, and knowing that I'm a beginner, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm going to mess this up, I'm kind of an idiot, and bear with me, I'm here to learn. And these instructors they just had that level of professionalism and experience of dealing with brand new shooters that I was so relieved and so happy that when the day was over, I was like, man, like I've got to make my life about this. I've got to come to every single course that I can afford. Like, these are the people I want to keep learning from. I really appreciated that from them. These guys are all prior military, prior first responder, law enforcement, special forces, this, infantry, that. They have resumes a mile long. But the most important thing that they brought to this course of instruction was their ability to accept us for who we were, which is bumbling Timmy Two Thumbs, like just making mistakes all over the place and just accepting us and be like, hey, it's okay. Try this next time. Hey, next time, try to do this. It was such a relaxed environment. I really can't say enough how much I appreciate them doing that. My previous experience being on a range has not always been the most fun, though it has been, eventful, and it did produce a good product, which was me being a Marine. But like in the Marines, you're basically just you're going through the course of instruction, you're going through the string of fire, and then you're getting hazed if you were not successful. I'm very fortunate that I was a 3-time high award expert marksman in the Marines. I think I shot like a 232, a 231, and a 232 on the range, iron sights, M16A2 and the M16A4 platform. I shot out to 500 yards, all 10 in the black. But dude, that was 10 years ago. That's not who I am. That's not what weapon systems and combat is anymore. That stuff is archaic. And that was a lot of fun to learn. And then I went through a couple cool guy courses, 2 or 3 or 4, while I was in the Marines, where you do, courses of instruction that last about a week or two. You run through several thousand rounds, and you work on footwork drills and, moving towards a target, pivoting and turning, Groucho stance, if anybody remembers that, where they're shouting commands like, feet, knees, hips, Groucho, and then you start moving toward, and they teach you a little bit of OODA loop and stuff. I got to see some of that in this course again, so that was a fun flashback, memories that I had in the Marines. But the courses of instruction that I received in the Marines were still very limited because I was just an artilleryman. I was a counter battery radar operator. Like it wasn't my job to go run and gun. It wasn't my job to walk on patrols. My patrolling experience in the Marines was very limited to Marine combat training, which is only 3.5 weeks long, or 3 weeks total, and then you go to artillery school or whatever technical school you're going to. And, then we did a couple cool guy schools, like I said, for workups to Iraq, but it just wasn't my job. I was a field Marine through and through, but my best friend was really a shovel and digging ditches and holes and filling sandbags than it was, putting holes and on paper or on a target. But I'm very familiar with my M16, but I'm just not familiar with a shotgun. I've always wanted to take a tactical shotgun course. Super glad that I got to do that with these guys. And because of the level of professionalism that they had, and they weren't screaming at me, they weren't yelling at me, everything, like the way that they just conducted the class and accepted people for their flaws and worked through those problems individually is why I'm going to be coming back and taking their carbine course, their pistol course, just every course that they have, I'm going to be taking. Absolutely. Financially speaking, I'm probably going to have to space them out every couple months. I am definitely going to be signing up for a course that's coming up. It's a precision rifle course. I have an M1A loaded rifle. It's based off of the M14. Super excited to take that for some precision shooting, see how far I can punch out with that. I don't know, man. I absolutely loved everything about this course. I would say the class was actually divided with 50-50 of people that may have been new, and then people that had a little bit more experience. I think there were a couple people in the firing line, taking the class that actually were experts in other areas of firearms and training, but they wanted to just brush up on their shotgun skills, and they just wanted more range time with the shotgun, and that was really cool to see. I think everybody in our particular class, I personally think everybody did really well. But it was also really good to see that at least one point in the 3 to 4 solid hours of trigger time that we had of shooting, 150 plus rounds, we probably shot closer to, somewhere between 150 to 200 rounds. Everybody probably had one moment where something hung them up, where it was either the reload or dealing with the safety and firing and going back to safety or something. It wasn't anything that was not safe. It was that we all were trying to figure out our shotguns. we're all trying to figure out our gear and how to reload from our very specific gear and how to adapt maybe previous skills into this particular platform. I know there were several people in that class that were probably absolute experts on pistol or carbine or other platforms, and then the shotgun was a challenge for them to just, another hurdle and another thing for them to conquer. So it definitely was for me. The one thing that was hard for me to adapt to was reloading. I really like the style of reload that was taught by the course instructor, Justin. I really loved hearing his combat stories about how he carried a shotgun for breaching, and I loved hearing about the training that he received, that he was teaching to us, which was shoot one, load one, shoot two, load two, shoot three, load three. You're constantly reloading the shotgun. You're constantly topping off what you just expended, what you just shot at your targets. You're shooting, you're eliminating a threat, you're assessing if there's more work to be done, if there's more threats, and then you're reloading because you don't know when you're going to have that opportunity to reload again. This was very counterintuitive to me because I had spent the last, 5 to 8 years watching 3-gun and competitive shotgun shooters go to the range in competition, and they would essentially fire off however many rounds were in their magazine tube and then do a quad load or a double load, or they're loading really quickly, but then they're eliminating, they're shooting at targets and they're running through all of their ammunition in one go, and then they're reloading. The difference is that the target is not shooting back at you. When you are in a combative situation or a tactical shotgun situation, somebody shooting back at you, you don't want to have to reload 7 shells and then commence the fight. There may not be cover for you. There may not be concealment or cover. So you need to shoot one, reload one, shoot two, reload two. I really like that methodology. I realize it may not be the methodology that everybody will utilize. I may receive different instruction someday when I decide to go to SimTac or anywhere else to learn tactical shotgun, and I'm looking forward to adding those skills to my toolbox. But I absolutely loved this methodology. I had never considered it. It made sense. If you have to eliminate a threat, make sure you top one off in the magazine tube. The style of reloading that we did was, I guess you could refer to as a master grip. We would start off in a low ready. We would aim at our target, and then we would reload from there in what would be considered a strong master grip stance, I guess, or a master grip, where it's very similar to a carbine, where you keep your hand on the firearm while you're reloading with your non-dominant hand, your offhand, and then you're assessing the situation further, and then you're going back to a low ready or a high ready. But we were all practicing on the low ready in this course of instruction. I like that because it was very familiar with what I had ever done with carbine, a little bit similar to what I've done with pistol. I don't have any problem with that. It was a huge learning curve for me, and it's something I'm going to continue practicing. I just purchased a few more dummy rounds, and it's something I want to practice at the very least once a week at my house. I do want to add other variations of reloading, but in the future, as I receive quality instruction, I don't want to just learn from YouTube. I would love to learn, with actual instructors, actual hands-on. So I did really appreciate that, and that is something I'm going to utilize for home defense here at home. Another thing that I really loved about this course was I got to try all the different soft goods that I brought, all the different types of ammunition retention. I got to try out the bandolier. I got to try out the shotgun belt. I got to try out the tressed rig. I'm using STAC shotgun shell cards, which hold 7 shells per card, and I have one on the buttstock and I have one on the receiver, and I can hold 7 rounds in the tube. But what happens when you've run through 21 rounds of shells? Where do you load from? I absolutely hate loading from the bandolier. I thought it would be a good idea. I'm glad I brought it. I'm glad I brought it so I could find out if it would work for me in the style of reloading that we learned, and it did not work at all. I freaking hated it. I practiced with the shotgun belt, as you can see here. I have a belt and a string of 25 shells around my waistline. That was kind of hard. To grab a shell and to reload from there. It was just difficult. I definitely prefer reloading from the STAC elastic shotgun shell cards that are velcroed to the side of the shotgun, and then utilizing my chest rig to refill the shotgun shell cards, as the chest rig essentially is fitted for a 5.56, like Magpul style or steel style magazine. You can equally put in a shotgun shell card that has elastic, places for holding the shells. So I was able to just reload from there. Not individual shells. I would just take out the whole placard, put it on the side of the rifle, take the old one off. Before that, put it in my dump pouch or just dump it on the ground, and then, keep reloading from there. So I loved this course of instruction because it allowed me to figure out what soft goods were working for this style of reload and the style of tactical shooting that the instruction that we were learning. And I just figured out what worked for me, what didn't work for me. I think some people were loading from their pockets. Some people were loading from bandoliers that were attached to their sling. Everybody had a completely different setup. That being said, everybody had a completely different shotgun. There were no 3 shotguns alike. There may have been 2 Berettas, 2 Benellis, 2 Mossbergs, 2 Remingtons. Like, everybody had a completely different setup. And because of that, we all had different safety situations. The Beretta has a crossbar in front of the trigger. The Remington has a crossbar safety behind the trigger. The Mossberg has a thumb safety. So we all received instruction on how to navigate this, but there was no by the numbers as we approached the firing line for a string of fire, because we all had such unique platforms that it really just came down to shooting, assessing the situation, topping it off, and then moving forward with the next string of fire. I loved it. I love these footwork drills. This is something I did in the Marines 20 years ago. I'm terrible at it. I clearly need a lot more work. You need to pivot on the foot and not shuffle your feet. But it was really great. This was the OODA loop, where we observe, we orient, we decide, and then we act, if I have that correct. Absolutely loved everything about this course. Don't have a single complaint about it. If this course ever pops up again in the future, I'll most likely take it, but I would definitely recommend taking a different shotgun the second time around so you can get good at that, and maybe taking a different type of soft good or retention options for your shotgun shells. I really love the chest rig that I purchased. That worked out real well, but honestly, it gave me more confidence in my shotgun's ability to hold 7 in a tube, 7 on the receiver, and then 7 on the buttstock. That's a lot of rounds, man. That's 21 rounds, and I'm firing, double-aught buck. So I've got, 8 or 9, 33 caliber, .33 caliber, pellets flying at you at the same time, man. Like, that's just a lot of ammunition moving down range. Absolutely loved everything about this course. I don't know what else there is to say. I just can't wait to see what else they come up with. I would love to see an advanced shotgun course. There wasn't a huge emphasis on marksmanship capabilities, which I appreciate. Everything was about reloading and movement. And that, to me, was probably most important, because we're firing between 5 to 10 yards. We spent a lot of time on the 5 yard, the 7 yard, and the 10 yard line. Here I'm firing on what appears to be a 7 yard line as I'm moving laterally across the range. I'm glad that there was no emphasis on marksmanship and shot placement as much as there was on reloading and practical stance and engaging the target. Maybe an advanced shotgun course would be the next step for me. Folks, I'm about to run out of time here. Thank you all so much for watching. If you have any questions, just hit me up in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them.